Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I am your host, Tiffany Daniels. We'll get to the JRC in a moment. First, brief disclaimer. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, all pertinent links are going to be right there in the description box for you. So should you like to do a deep dive on either subject, you definitely should be able to go ahead and do so. Trigger warnings real quick. This channel is marked not for kids for a reason. I do use profanity. And when we talk about places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. So if you got a child that is 16 and younger and they are watching this, parental supervision very much advised, alright? Alright, now, where we left off last time. Alright, so, this comment says, as an autistic adult with low support needs and a late and formal diagnosis after years of therapy, and I can attest that even corrective actions far more subtle than ESDs under question have left me with life-altering psychological issues. You know, kind of like how ABA has. I said what I said. I am horrified and appalled by the thought of people as sensitive to rebuke as myself being subjected to harmful electrical shocks in response to behaviors they often cannot control. As I said, it is our default factory setting, okay? And when something happens that is horrifically traumatic or horrifically overwhelming, we're going to default to our factory setting. You can't drill in an alternative behavior no matter how many times that you make us repeat it and then expect it to take over from the factory default setting when some traumatic shit goes down. Because that's not what's going to happen. You can't drill our factory settings out of our head. We're going to default to it every time. This is a fact. Okay? It's just what it is. So, you really are punishing them for things they can't control instead of doing the things necessary, the work necessary, to uncover what's setting off those behaviors. You know, something that would actually be useful in helping develop tools and coping strategies to deal with root causes, which then would cause the other issues that stem from all of it to come down in number naturally. If you deal with the problem, you got nothing to melt down at, right? It's basic logic 101. I mean, my heart is broken by decades of torture to which my often nonverbal autistic siblings have been subjected. Though my experience is marked by a considerable degree of hopeless feelings, the possibility of finally ending one of the most coercive, deleterious, and inhumane practices applied to autistic people under the guise of behavioral therapy provides a small spark of warm hope in a sea of desperation. To all who have worked for the end of ESD, thank you for your efforts. You are appreciated more than you know. It's very true, but for those of us who are older now, that have been in the trenches a good long minute, I'll be honest with you, I have operated without hope. What I mean by that is, I have seen the JRC get away with the most horrific shit on planet Earth for almost 20 years. Others have seen them going for nearly 40. Now, does that mean I'm going to stop the fight? No, but I need to make very clear what the reality of the situation actually is. Because the sad fact is we may never even see this place close in our lifetime. But we can start putting the steps in place. We can go down fighting them to our last breath. We can continue to expose on international platforms such as social media about what these places do to kids like us. And every single time one of those asinine Republicans starts talking about locking people up in asylums, make them remember what asylums were. And make sure they know the political consequences for saying stupid crap out of anger. Because I am. Anyways, let me go ahead and continue this here. We're going to go ahead and go on to the next comment. Alright, here we go. Okay, so this one says, as a registered behavior technician that works in the field of ABA, providing 35 plus direct therapy hours a week, I find these old and outdated methods of behavior reduction to be inhumane and unsafe in any area of practice. Pot speaking to kettle says what? Because if you don't recognize that it is what the JRC has built their torture treatment program off of, if you don't think that it is not ABA inspired, I've got beachfront property in Kansas I can sell you right now. Perfect view of the ocean. I'll sell it to you for a penny. Okay? For real. As someone who works hard to advocate and be a part of the solution, the proposal of electric therapy being taken off the field of ABA and other therapies will benefit many and ease the minds of thousands of parents and guardians considering putting their child and or family into programs like individualized milestones that ABA can provide. Or hear me on this, you can do it the person-centered planning way, which also has individualized milestones for you to reach, as does a good majority of the other different types of treatment programs that you can choose from out there without forcing you to act contrary to your nature, nor demand that you act differently from what is your factory default setting. Okay? You may not be using physical aversives inside ABA. You still use psychological ones. Because if you don't think that it is a psychological mindfuck to tell a parent that they are not allowed to talk, address, or console their screaming in visceral pain autistic child until they use their words, and you want to pretend that you are not part of the problem, that is a psychological mind game, people. That is a psychological mind fuck. What if that child was crying in pain because they were actually in pain? What if that crying in pain is supposed to help you be an indicator of something that might be going wrong that they can't quite put into words? Tell me, does a neurotypical have to give you a Shakespearean soliloquy before you address them after they hit their leg on something and go, ow, fuck, that hurts? Or how about they just say, ow, and don't say anything at all due to the shock of pain? Gonna make them say a Shakespearean soliloquy before you ask after if they're okay? It's a psychological mindfuck. It is an aversive consequence. Please spare me the bull. And that's by far not the only type of psychological mindfucks that are littered throughout ABA. And you can't just sweep it away by saying, but now we explain it in more flowery PC approved of terminology does not change the core of what your program does. Okay? It is the epitome, by means of reinforcement, to try to force us fucking circle pegs into square holes. And then trying to cut off bits and pieces of us, trying to force us to fit. Okay? Other treatment programs have milestones that don't require me to take on a different personality that is more better suited to the individual I'm in the room with. Okay? You want to know why some of us older autistics have such psychological problems? Try being forced to be someone else every single time you step outside your door for the entire duration that you are outside your door, and try doing it for decades on end. It's going to build resentment. Okay? And I need to tell you guys this reality, because the fact of the matter is, as long as the core program remains as it is, places like the JRC will be continuing to come back to haunt us year after year, decade after decade, and if we're not comfortable, century after century. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and close out. We don't get very many views on this channel. Fear we do get, YouTube get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the comments, and make sure you're still set up for notifications. We're going to be coming back on Saturday with the next Down the Rabbit Hole episode, and on Sunday coming back with the next episode for the Snake Oil Salesman series. We don't want you to miss anything. I appreciate your time, and as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye, everyone.